everybody, and welcome back to Tech Safe out of Worcester, Massachusetts. We're so honored to have you with us today to talk about wireless radiation risks and safer technology solutions. We're so grateful to the studio for giving us this time. And my name is Cecelia Doucette. I'm the Director of Massachusetts for Safe Technology, as well as the international nonprofit Wireless Education, where we have a little course that can quickly train schools, families, companies in about a half an hour online. So please join us at Massachusetts for Safe Technology or wirelesseducation.org. Today, we are so excited to invite our next guests, two of them, into the studio with us from far away. First, we have Christine Zips from Colorado, and we have Dr. Olle Johansson from Sweden, although he is coming to us today through Zoom from West Africa. And let me tell you a little bit about our friends today. So Christine Zips is an independent journalist, researcher, and founder of Zips Media, Wired Schools, Luna Studio Gallery, and Studio Luna Press. She's the producer and director of a soon-to-be-released documentary called 5G, Friend or Foe. And as a health advocate, she raises awareness through global problems causing harm, such as these health impacts from wireless technology. So Christine, thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to learn a bit more about your film. And your co-producer on this, I understand, is Dr. Johansson. Is that correct?
That is correct, Cece. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm just thrilled. So Dr. Olle Johansson is a former associate professor from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden, and some people know that's where the Nobel Peace Prize hails from. And he is a neuroscientist, and he was in charge of the experimental dermatology unit in the Department of Neuroscience at the Karolinska Institute. And he and his colleagues have published more than 800 papers on issues that are very relevant today, many of them to do with today's man-made radio frequency radiation. He is called upon as an international expert to world congresses and symposiums. And I had the privilege of my work intersecting with Dr. Johansson's very unwittingly. When my children were in school in Ashland Public Schools here in Massachusetts, it was during the time when the wireless industry was bringing forth their 21st century classroom. And I didn't know of the biological risks that came with putting wireless in our classrooms, but I had been running our local education foundation. And one of the programs we ran early on before I figured out wireless was to replace all those big fat CRT monitors for the computers that emitted, apparently, some pretty unhealthy energy that could impact people's health. And lo and behold, it was Dr. Johansson's work at the Karolinska Institute in his lab that helped our world discover that we need to get rid of those CRTs, and they just very quietly started replacing them with the flat screen LCD panels. So, Dr. Johansson, thank you so much for being here with us. You know, the both of you, it's just such a thrill for me to be sitting virtually with two of my most favorite heroes in this world. So welcome, Dr. Johansson.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be with you. And let me just correct you. The Karolinska Institute hands out the Nobel Prize in physiology or medicine, but our esteemed colleagues in Oslo, Norway, they take care of the Peace Prize. I don't want to start a war, between Sweden and Norway. So just that little change.
We'll keep you as peaceful countries. Thank you very much, and my apologies for the misstatement. So we are going to insert, when this video is produced, we're going to insert the 1-minute teaser clip for this new film that you guys have been working on that's called 5G, Friend or Foe. Christine, since you started this project, can you tell us where it began and how you engaged Dr. Johansson and others for this project and what you hope to achieve with it?
Gosh, it's been a little over 2 years, I believe, Olle, since this came about, but I've had the honor and privilege of interviewing Professor Johansson over the last several years about the health impacts from wireless technology. So through that, I knew of his work, and we built a bit of a professional friendship and stayed in contact about this. And from my work that started back in around 2016 or even earlier, I started being concerned about toxins in our food, particularly GMOs in our food. And I did interviews about that and produced that. And through that work, I caught the attention of Josh Del Sol, who produced, as I'm sure you were aware of, award-winning film, Take Back Your Power, about the dangers of so-called smart meters. And he invited me, based on my work, to join them, his team, Empower Movement, which was a follow project to that film. So I learned so much about smart meters, and that got the EMF radiation on my radar, and it kind of snowballed from there. So naturally, 5G was looming on the horizon, and I checked with Olle to see if he'd like to initially to be on our expert team, of which you are sitting, Cece. Thank you so much, in the documentary. And it kind of evolved that it made sense for him to be our scientific advisor, as well as, you know, an active partner in the project. And let me know if I didn't answer your questions.
No, that was perfect. So this documentary will be released when, do you think?
Well, you know, we're working with a wonderful editor in the UK, Oliver, and he's designed this brilliant poster that goes with the teaser video. And he's currently working on our website, and that should be finished within a couple of weeks. As soon as that is done, we'll be bundling them together and rolling them out in a premiere fashion, so to speak. So we hope to make a big splash on the scene within, Olle, would you think that would be reasonable? A couple of weeks, say?
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget to tell everyone that we have already, and I'm still on it because I cannot send so many per day, but I'm sending out to all the members of my tribe, as you call it, you know, the people on my mailing lists, and they are very many. The teaser, which you will see of the poster, and as soon as we have the whole video ready, then we will, of course, launch it. Yes.
Well, this is going to be such a wonderful tool in our arsenal. Olle, when Sabine El-Jamail and Peter Sullivan were putting together the film Generation Zapped, we were so grateful to have this. It's now available in Europe on Amazon Prime. It's just been censored here in the US on Amazon Prime. So people will get a little notice if they try to access it here that says not available in your area. But folks should know that Generation Zapped is a really wonderful film that was released in 2018. And Olle's work is featured in there. We helped Ashland Public Schools here in the U.S. become the first in the nation to even have this little sign hanging in our classroom. That's featured in the film. But a lot has changed since this came out in 2018, which makes it so wonderful for the production that you guys are about to bring forward. One of the things we did in my community is we worked with our local library and our local farmers market and the Friends of the Library, which is a separate nonprofit, and they wound up putting together a 6-part documentary film and discussion series on the wireless issue, electromagnetic radiation and health. And the film that Christine mentioned was Josh Del Sol's Take Back Your Power. That was featured. And there were many others, as well as talks by Dr. Erica Mallory Blythe, Dr. Deborah Davis, and other films that are out there. So it's so critically important to have current information available. And I think that this 5G friend or foe that you guys are producing is going to help to fill that gap that we now have today. So we're very, very grateful. So Dr. Johansson, can you tell us how you first got involved in the electromagnetic field or EMF issue?
Well, I've told this story many times, and that goes back a very, very long time already, and that's before you and Christine were even born. It was in 1977.
Oh,
when
I was
I
born.
became interested in. Oh, no, you were not. You were young, you know. But I got very interested in adverse health and also biological effects. We shouldn't forget the other 8.7 million species on this planet that are impacted right as we speak with various forms of exposures, including, of course, from the fifth generation mobile telephony. But in 1977, I got very interested. And then in the early 80s, I was confronted with a radio program, and it was a woman here in Sweden that was talking about the newly found screen dermatitis or electrical allergy people that later were transformed into the disability called electrohypersensitivity. And that fired me up even more because it was so very, very interesting. And since then, we have tried our hardest to perform different types of investigations. And to no one's surprise, it is not easy to persuade really people to, for instance, support our research with the funding we need. The society has decided that all these gadgets are safe, in spite of the fact that, for instance, the manufacturers of technology, the operators, the insurance and reinsurance companies, none of them take any form of legal responsibility of their own legal products. And that speaks volumes, I would say. And they actually abandoned ship for 20, 25 years ago and has not been seen aboard since then.
When we worked with the legislators in the state of New Hampshire here in the U.S., that was one of the things that really caught their attention, is that Swiss Re, AM Best, Lloyd's of London have long since recognized that this man-made radio frequency radiation is a world-leading risk, and they do not cover for damages. So, you know, aside from all the health implications and the destruction of our environment, that should be a focal point for our towns to be looking at, because they need to rewrite their zoning code and make sure that the industry is held liable for damages. And right now, most of our towns have no idea that they could be left holding the responsibility for damages in our own communities.
It was at a meeting in London 2002, so that's more than 20 years ago. And at that were the type of insurance companies as you just described, and all of them said openly, without trying to hide anything, that for them, the question was not whether the electromagnetic fields and radiation was dangerous or not. They knew it was dangerous. The only question for them was, who is going to pay when people in the future want to have compensations due to health claims like cancer and so on? And they said, we don't want to do that. We leave that to society. And of course, they are commercial companies. They are entitled to decide for themselves what they will cover. And, you know, insurance companies, for instance, they cover very dangerous activities like gas-filled ships on the oceans. They cover Beyonce's legs, I read, but they do not cover health effects of artificial electromagnetic fields, all categories. So that in itself, as you say, is a big warning flag.
With the experience that I've had with trying to educate, trying to move that needle towards safe technology, one of the things that I come across is that industry got such a big head start and got all of their disinformation out there to promote the convenience of all of this technology without sharing the balance of information on the risks. So most people will, by now, have been conditioned to think tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist. In fact, one of our select board members just said that this week when I was talking to our select board, which is our form of local government. So we can't fault them because they've only heard from the industry. And by now, where we used to have many, many independent journalistic outlets, mainstream media has been bought out and bought out and bought out, and it's now owned by the same 4 to 6 conglomerations that own these companies that promote all these toxins into our society. So I think it comes down to learning about it yourself and educating those
Cece,
around you.
yeah, but in my world, I don't really blame the media, the journalists or reporters. I don't blame the industry because, after all, the big mother and father here, they are called parliaments and governments. And the company just went like to the Swedish government and parliament and said, is it all right to blanket Sweden with this type of irradiation? And the government and parliament said, oh yeah, we want that. We want that. Thank you. We want that. So mother and father here, which should be held responsible, are governments, parliaments, even I would say the World Health Organization, which has covered their backs for this safe technology. Even they understand that this is a very dangerous thing for the future.
Well,
So you see, you Americans always say this fantastic thing, always follow the money.
so if you were to do a quick search on the World Health Organization, electromagnetic fields or radio frequency radiation, something pops up from 2016 that says the science is inconclusive. But how would you, as your average person, know that in 2019 they reopened their investigation? They already classified this as a group 2B possible human carcinogen back in 2011, and what we were missing at that time were the animal studies. And now in the U.S., the U.S. National Toxicology Program has completed a $30 million study that found clear evidence of cancers and DNA damage. Right on the heels of that, the Ramazzini Institute in Italy concluded another large study on cell towers. Ours was on cell phones. You have to have the courage to dive a little bit deeper, and if anything we've done in the decade, or in Olle's case and Christine's, decades of research on this, let us help you connect those dots quickly, because then we can quickly get to solutions.
Yeah, that's easy. That just a few days ago, it was announced that the American National Institute of Health, I think it is, or is it even further up on Capitol Hill, has decided not to give any further funding to your national toxicology program regarding irradiation. The ones that actually found something very important, and then they say no more.
Right, and that we have been seeing. We've been seeing that since the 1990s. So when the telecom industry got into Congress and they passed that Telecommunications Act of 1996, they then went and defunded all the good work that was being done through the Environmental Protection Agency, the Centers for Disease Control. They just pulled the plug on those programs, just like they did this month with the U.S. National Toxicology Program. So it doesn't shock us. It makes us very sad because they are supposed to be protecting us. And instead, Harvard Law School, go ahead.
Yeah, Sweden, at least, we elected these authorities and we also pay for them, their salaries, the localities, everything. Every paperclip is paid by taxpayers' money, and they still do this against the citizens. Yeah. I don't understand this, or actually I do understand it, but it's sad, as you say.
If I could interject just a little bit, these are such great points you guys are making. I hate to take away from that, but I would like to point out that I do believe that media, mainstream media, as Cece pointed out, owned by the same bad guys that are putting forth this misinformation, and there's so much confusion. I believe that people's lives are so busy these days, they rely on mainstream news where they're not getting the truth for the most part. And I've recently done a series of interviews with James Roguski, who is, in my opinion, the leading researcher looking into the truth behind the World Health Organization. They are not our heroes, as I always thought they should be, but they are pulling some lots of behind the scenes shenanigans from the health perspective. But if I'm happy, maybe Cece might share a link to some of those interviews, but that would be good. But there's so much confusion. What I'm hearing from so many people is it's hard to know who to believe these days. So they revert to the easy way. I think 10 o'clock news before bed, and that's about the extent of it. And money is the driver, as Ollie pointed out. If you notice something that's a little bit off, follow the money and the control and it's confusion and censorship is alive and well. I've received that. I recently did an interview about a Nuremberg hearing and was put in timeout, got a strike against me from YouTube, and I can for 90 days, and they wouldn't even hear my appeal, but it was all truth, and I was very well supported with those points. But I'm talking too much, but I wanted to make those points there that
and we see this all over our society today. So it just creates an opportunity to create a parallel society that gets back to honesty and integrity and protecting the public. And I'm so happy to see that so many citizens are tuning in because they're seeing people get sick. And sometimes that's what it takes. Why am I falling apart? Why can my healthcare team not help me anymore? And we do have an EMF medical conference that is now available at no charge for everybody in the world to go train with world-leading doctors and scientists, building biologists and advocates. If you go to EMF Medical Conference 2021, it's all there. It's not being brought forth to the public. We have materials to train our schools. The Massachusetts Breast Cancer Coalition already has kindergarten through grade 12 curriculum developed. So we have Tech Safe Schools, which is a wonderful website by Patty and Doug Wood that lays out the science, that lays out the legal risk, and most importantly, teaches us how can we have our schools be safe, healthy environments again, where creativity and exploration can flow for the children instead of headaches and nosebleeds and ADD and ADHD and autism and anxiety and depression at epidemic levels. We, the people, need to step up, and that is why I'm so grateful that this new documentary will come out. Christine, can you tell us who else you brought in on the team for that film?
In addition to UCC, so grateful for you and all that you contributed. We had building biologist Eric Windheim from California, Jennifer Wood, who has been EMF compromised. She's suffered greatly from her exposure to that. Dr. Sharon Goldberg, expert on this. They're all experts. Dr. Paul Haru, and there were a total of 6. Ollie, am I missing? I think I'm missing someone.
Just Ollie.
I love what you say and also what Cece says. And the only one that you kind of forgot is Camilla Rees.
Oh my.
And in the document,
yes, indeed.
She's some of the most important words, which you have already said. And she says we need to educate, educate, and educate. I always tell people, don't be shy. I mean, no one knows, in spite of the glorious introduction by Cece, no one knows who I am. So wherever I go, regardless of what people are doing, I will step up to them and tell them, for instance, what Cece said. Do you know that the World Health Organization in Geneva in Switzerland has cancer classified the radiation that you use for your cell phone? You have a crack in their armor, and you can start spoon feed them with information and educate, educate, educate.
Absolutely. I'd like to speak to, Cece's done so much work in schools, and I started a group called Wired Schools, and we have a Facebook page and everything. But as you know, children are so much more vulnerable to this radiation with their blood-brain barrier, their thinner skulls, more moisture in their body, etc., that conducts the electricity. But also I'd like to mention with Camilla Rees, about 7 years ago, I co-hosted an event downtown Denver called Screen Time in Schools, What Parents Should Know. And Camilla was on our expert panel along with that and did a wonderful job. So
Yeah,
yeah.
she's phenomenal. She and
Brings a
Dr.
lot
Martha
to
Herbert
people.
from the Autism Lab at Massachusetts General Hospital, they got a really important article placed in a parent's magazine that came out right when I was still just talking to myself about this issue. So it was so empowering to see the work that they had done together. And I got to meet her at a disability hearing on radio frequency down in Rhode Island. So we're just so grateful. And Dr. Sharon Goldberg is a boots on the ground physician. She is treating patients. She diagnosed the families out in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, where the Verizon cell tower made them so sick they had to leave their homes.
Just a little word to everyone out there who would maybe you're a little new to this issue. Maybe you'd like to do something yourself, but I can't stress the importance about doing your own research. I always ask people, don't take my opinion or my words as truth, or just research the words, make up your own mind. And once you see what's going on, and you will find the truth, look for credible sources. Just reach out to everyone you know. Start maybe on the local level with your county commissioners and say, do you realize I approached a local one here in my community, and I said, I did research in her office. I said, you know, you're so close to your Wi-Fi router and the cell tower near your building, we did measurements, and this is impacting your health. It's cumulative. And just talk with more and more people. Just yesterday, I met a person in our apartment building I hadn't met before. She was walking the halls on a cold day to get in her steps, and she pointed to her smartwatch, and she said, oh, yes, my grandchildren gave me this for Christmas. It's great. And I said, you know, they really seem so convenient, don't they? And I said, forgive me if I'm imposing, but you might want to check into the radiation that's emitting from this, as well as other wireless devices. And if you like, give me more information. But she had not heard it.
Right. Yikes. So
Industry's not going to tell you.
Just don't forget all the other species. The reason why I am walking around in this sandbox called Sahara, which is actually bigger than the whole of China, is that we are investigating primarily so-called pollinators like bumblebees and so on. And you know that in the US, you have lost more than 90% of the bumblebees, more than 90% of the honeybees are gone in Canada, and so on. And there are quite a number of studies pointing to that maybe the artificial electromagnetic fields from wireless telecommunication, your fun Wi-Fi router, your fun cell phone, may have deleterious impacts on these animals. And without them, no food and nothing to eat for children in the future when it comes down to most fruits, vegetables, and nuts.
Oh, just so important reminder. I know the Environmental Health Trust has just launched a new website on wildlife and wireless. So we will be able to provide that link to you too if folks go out to Massachusetts for Safe Technology. Again, we do 2 free public education webinars every month. Anybody could just come learn with us. Come back again. Folks come again and again and again as they learn more, take steps, learn more, take steps. So we're always here for you. Please join us at Massachusetts for Safe Technology. Thank you, Olle Johansson. Thank you, Chris Zips. We are just so honored to have you, and we look forward to sharing 5G, friend or foe, when it's released. All right, everybody, have a tech-safe day. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Christine Zips, Executive Director, Producer of this documentary. Right now, the 5th generation 5G of mobile telephony is rolled out exactly where you live. More and more adults are asking themselves if all this extra artificial radiation really is safe. And why is it even needed? In a soon-to-be-released video, I, along with retired Professor Olle Johansson, previously employed at the Karolinska Institute and at the Royal Institute of Technology, Stockholm, Sweden, together with a group of esteemed and internationally recognized experts, try to answer these questions. We strongly believe you'll be surprised by the answers, so stay tuned.